Welcome children. Today I am going to deal with the second lesson, the second portion of the lesson. The previous slot I explained the fundamental features of animal kingdom. In today's topic we are going to analyze the first 6 phyla coming under non-chordates. So let's get started. Now the first phylum is phylum Porifera, and we know the distinct feature of phylum Porifera is that it bears spores. So when I teach each taxon, I will emphasize on 3 points. One, the distinct feature. Two, the fundamental features which was dealt in the previous lot. And lastly, the body structure. So video 1 comprises the fundamental features of all the phylum, and distinctive features was also introduced in the second chapter, biological classification. So I will just briefly give you the distinctive features and the fundamental features, but I will go into detail about the body structure. So each phylum, it goes like this way. So if you are asked in the exam for salient features of a particular taxon, remember it should include distinctive feature, fundamental features, and lastly the body structure. So starting with phylum Porifera. This is a typical example, cycon. It is an example for Porifera, and you just see the shape, it is irregular. Okay, from that itself you can guess what will be the symmetry. It is an example of asymmetry. Now going to the body structure, it has basically an opening called the ossiculum, and then it gets into the opens into the body, and the body encloses a cavity called spongiocele. And as I told you, the distinct feature of this particular phylum is that the body bears spores, numerous spores, giving a sponge-like appearance. These spores are called ostia. So basically I have described 3 parts. The body wall bears spores called ostia. Through the ostia the water gets in. See, water is getting in through the ostia, minute pores. That's why it's getting the name Porifera, because it's spore bearing animal. Then through the ostia the water gets in. From there it gets into the body cavity. What's the body cavity here? Spongiocele. And from the spongiocele it exits out through the osculum. Okay, so water enters through the ostia, circulates through the spongiocele, and it exits through the osculum. Osculum, you can see one large pore, usually at the apex. Okay, now this water pathway is very important for 3 processes. 1 for food gathering, 2 for respiration, and 3 for removal of waste. So once again, to gather food, so water, along with the water, food gets in, then removal of waste as well as respiration. Okay, so this is very important, and this is the diagram which I have seen. So you can spot out the osculum. See, very clearly you can see the osculum. It's the largest pore. Okay, and you can see the body surface is bearing pores, giving a porous appearance, so it looks like a sponge. So this is all about the body structure. Then the texture of the body, it is not slimy, it is not jelly, it is sturdy, strong, because the skeleton is supported by spongin fibers or spicules. So once again, the body is very stiff. It is not jelly-like or slimy. It is very stiff because of the presence of spicules or spongin fibers. So once again, a recap of phylum Porifera. The distinct feature of phylum Porifera is that the body wall bears pores, and hence it gets the name Porifera, and because it resembles a sponge, it's also called as sponge. Then the fundamental features that you have to refer video 1. What and all is there? Level of organization, cellular level, symmetry, asymmetry. Then it does not have a body coelom, instead they have a spongocele. Then about the fertilization. The fertilization is internal, but the fertilization is internal, but the development is indirect. So these are the 4 fundamental features that you can incorporate into phylum Porifera. Now the body structure. I told you the body is covered with pores called ostia, through which the water enters and moves through the spongocele, and from there it exits through the single opening at the apex called the osculum. This pathway helps in food gathering, excretion and respiration. Now you can see the spongocele has a number of canals. See, number of canals on the entire spongocele, that is a cavity inside called the spongocele, is lined with a cell called choanocytes or collar cells. So the spongocele is not smooth, it's lined with some cells called collar cells or choanocytes. Okay. So this is all the details coming under Porifera, the salient features, which should include the distinctive feature, the fundamental features and the body structure. Next phylum Cnidaria. Now what is the distinct feature of phylum Cnidaria, which I have already mentioned in the first class regarding animal kingdom? The distinct feature is that it bears cnidoblast cells. So what are these cnidoblast cells? These are stinging cells. And these cnidoblast cells are found on the tentacles. So if I show you on this, you can see it is found on the tentacles. So on the tentacles there are the cnidoblasts. So the tentacles are studded with a number of cnidoblasts, and hence it is getting the name Cnidaria because of the presence of cnidoblast or stinging cells. So what will be the function of these stinging cells? To capture its prey, for defense and also for anchorage. So there are 3 functions of the cnidoblast cells. 1, to capture its prey. If these tentacles entangles the prey, what happens? The prey gets paralyzed because it is stung by the cnidoblast cells, and with the entangled prey which is entangled by the tentacle, it is devoured through the mouth. Okay. Then for anchorage, to anchor, to move from one location and to anchor to that particular substratum, the cnidoblast is used, and also for defense. Okay, to capture the prey, defense and for anchorage. Now cnidarians occur in 2 forms, that's why I have given 2 pictures. So the second I am going to describe the body structure. They occur in 2 forms, and the 2 forms are called polyp, and the second form is called medusa. So I have taken 2 examples. I have downloaded 2 examples. One is of sea anemone. So this is sea anemone, and this is the picture of jellyfish. So looking at these 2 examples, we can elicit the difference between the 2 types of forms. Okay. Now look at the shape. Look at sea anemone. How is it? Is it sedentary or free living? It is sedentary. Such sedentary forms are called sessile. Sessile means they are stable, they are fixed, they are stationary. So they are fixed on the rocks. Whereas this is free living. Then I can say free floating at the mercy of the waves. Medusa. Then second, look at the shape. If you analyze the shape, it looks like a cylinder. Okay, so this is cylindrical. Whereas look at medusa, it is umbrella shape. See, it looks like an umbrella. Then the third feature the mouth and the tentacles. See, here's the mouth. The mouth and the tentacles. See, tentacles are facing upwards. Whereas here the mouth and tentacles are facing downwards. So once again highlighting the differences between the two types of body form, polyp and medusa. I have taken two examples. Polyp, example sea anemone, and medusa I have taken jellyfish. Okay, so we are going to analyze the features from the picture given. Polyp is sessile, sedentary or fixed to a rock, whereas medusa is free living or free floating. Second, polyp is cylindrical, whereas medusa is umbrella shaped. Then polyp, the mouth and the tentacles are facing upwards, whereas in medusa the mouth and tentacles are facing downwards. Now the mouth is not directly opening out, it is opening through an elevation called the hypostome. This is an elevation, this is called hypostome, and at the tip of that elevation is the mouth. And the remaining part, this hypostome, is actually opening into a body cavity, and this body cavity is called the gastrovascular cavity. So in the previous case in Porifera, what was that cavity? Spongocoel. Here the cavity is called the gastrovascular cavity. So within the body of these organisms of cnidarians, there is a cavity, not the true cavity or false cavity, or it's not acoelomate, it is a cavity. The cavity is called the gastrovascular cavity. See, like a sac. Gastrovascular cavity which has an elevation. This elevation is called the hypostome, and at the tip of the hypostome is the mouth. Clear? So these are the two distinct forms that occur in cnidaria. Okay. For example, for polyp, it is sea anemone, and medusa example jellyfish. So I hope you have understood the two forms in which cnidarians exist. They either exist in polyp form or medusa. But there is a third example, or there is an example called obelia. Obelia exists in both the forms. During one generation it exists in polyp form, then the polyp gives rise to the medusa. So during the next generation it exists in medusa form. Then it is a turn to become the polyp. So you can see the polyp, it has both the forms in its life cycle, the polyp and the medusa. In both forms it exists, but these two forms do not coexist. First the obelia may be in the polyp form, then the polyp gives rise to the medusa, then the medusa gives rise to the polyp. So you can see alternation of generation. One generation they are in the polyp form, all these features. Then the next generation the polyp gives rise to the medusa. So they exist in the medusa form. Now the polyp gives rise to the medusa by asexual reproduction, and medusa gives rise to the polyp by sexual reproduction. So once again, in this example called obelia, it's different from the other specimens coming under cnidaria. I told you cnidarians either they exist in one form, polyp or medusa, but obelia is an example where both the forms exist, alternating one another, not coexisting, alternating. Polyp form, it's one generation that exists as polyp form. This polyp gives rise to the medusa asexually, and medusa gives rise to the polyp sexually. So this alternation of generation is called metagenesis. Very important, what is metagenesis? So in general what we can say, alternation of generation found in obelia, where you see polyp alternates with medusa. Now be more clear on it. Polyp gives rise to the medusa asexually, and medusa gives rise to the polyp sexually. So they exist in two forms, but not together, alternating. One generation they exist for some weeks in polyp form. Then the polyp gives rise to the medusa, and then for the other few weeks they exist in medusa. Then the medusa gives rise to the polyp. So this alternation of generation is called metagenesis, which is found in Obelia. I hope Cnidaria is clear. Then lastly, I told you we have to incorporate distinctive features. I told you nidoblast is a distinct feature. Then I explained the body structure, and third, what is it? The fundamental features. Now fundamental features, what are the fundamental features? Level of organization, tissue level, then body coelom. Here the body coelom is, as I told you, gastrovascular cavity. It is not coming under the three basic coeloms. Then what about the symmetry? Very easy to identify the symmetry. It is cylindrical, umbrella shape. Such organism possesses which type of symmetry? Radial symmetry. Then it is diploblastic. So all these fundamental features you have to gather from the flow chart. That is why I am not going to details, but I mentioned some important fundamental features which you can infer from the diagram. So clearly I have emphasized on the body structure. So I hope Cnidaria is clear. Having three examples in mind: sea anemone representing polyp, jellyfish representing medusa, and Obelia representing metagenesis, where both the forms are alternating with one another. I hope you have understood Cnidaria, phylum Cnidaria. Clear? Next is phylum Ctenophora. So going by the sequence, 1, 2, 3. Distinct feature of Ctenophora, as I told you in the first video, distinct feature is the presence of comb plates. And remember, there are how many comb plates? 8 comb plates, and these comb plates are bearing rows of cilia, and they are located externally. So let us identify the comb plates. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8. So there are 8 comb plates, okay, which are ciliated, and the function of these comb plates is for locomotion. Helps in locomotion. Then another feature of Ctenophora, from this diagram itself you can understand what will be the feature. Bioluminescence, it produces light. See, it emits light, and so the deep floor of the ocean looks so beautiful, lit by these in the dark deep ocean. You can see all these emitting light and giving beauty into the ocean. Okay, so bioluminescence and comb plates are the distinct features of phylum Ctenophora. Besides that, now going into the body structure, look at the shape of the Ctenophora. It's spherical, like a walnut. Do you know a walnut? Have you seen a walnut? Okay, so this is also referred to as sea walnuts, because it is spherical like the walnut, and because it is in the sea, it is called the sea walnuts. Then, as I told you, the body is spherical, and what and all are the features you can see? Spherical, bearing the comb plates. From the diagram you can get all the features. Comb plates, 8 of them. Then they show bioluminescence. See, it is illuminated. You can see like a electric bulb, the lights are circulating like this on all the comb plates. And lastly, can you see 2 tentacles? 2 trailing tentacles, 2 tentacles. So definitely you know what is the function of the tentacles: to capture its prey. So these tentacles are studded with coloblast cells. So I am just highlighting coloblast cells. Coloblast cells, unlike the nidoblast cells are found on the tentacles of Cnidaria. So the coloblast cells are not stinging, they are sticky. Sticky in nature, does not sting, it sticks. So it's very easy for them to capture the prey. It gets entangled in the tentacles, and they cannot slip off from the tentacles because the coloblast sticks the prey to the tentacles. Clear? So from the picture itself you can elicit the body structure. The most easiest phylum is Ctenophora. Once again describing the structure, it is spherical like a walnut, and hence it is called sea walnut. The features are, it bears 8 comb plates. 8 comb plates means these comb plates bear external cilia, rows of cilia, and these cilia beat, helping the organism to move in water. Then it shows bioluminescence. And last important feature, it bears 2 tentacles which are studded with coloblast, and coloblast cells helps in sticking, so that it's easy for them to capture their prey. Clear? And lastly, as I told you, the fundamental features. Fundamental features, again I am telling you, you have to refer the flow chart and you can get the fundamental features, but some of the fundamental features we can elicit from this diagram. See, now it's round or spherical, so what type of symmetry will it have? It will have radial symmetry. This is also diploblastic. Okay. Fundamental features, some which can be elicited from this diagram. The remaining all fundamental features refer the flow chart. Clear? So once again, phylum Ctenophora, the distinct feature is bioluminescence and bears 8 comb plates with with rows of cilia which helps in locomotion. Now talking about the body structure, it is spherical and hence it is referred as sea walnuts, and its jelly-like texture. Then the comb plates, as you can see, there are 8 comb plates which helps in locomotion because they having rows of cilia. Then they emit light and hence this property is called bioluminescence, and they have 2 tentacles to entangle or to capture the prey, and these tentacles are studded with coloblast cells. These are sticking cells. Clear? And the fundamental features please elicit from the flow chart in the first video. Okay. The few fundamental features you can get from this is symmetry. What type of symmetry? Radial symmetry, because I told you basically any organism which is spherical or cylindrical will definitely be under radial symmetry, and level of organization is the tissue and it is diploblastic. Clear? Next, we are going to deal with the 3 worms. The 3 worms are phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Ashhelminthes and phylum Annelida. Okay. So, I am going to deal with these 3 phyla simultaneously. So, first let us start with the distinct feature. So, the distinct feature of phylum Platyhelminthes is that they are dorso-ventrally flattened. The distinct feature of Ashhelminthes, they are round in cross section. Cross section, they are round. I mentioned earlier, when you cut a cylinder, what type of cross section you get? Round or circular. Hence, these are called round worms. And lastly, the feature here, you can see this type of segmentation it bears. In the previous video it was explained, the type of segmentation is metameric segmentation. That is, it is segmented both externally and internally. So, the first feature, let us be the distinctive feature. The Platyhelminthes, they are dorso-ventrally flattened, and hence the name flatworms. Common name is flatworms. Then here, their common name is roundworm because in cross section they appear round or cylindrical, and here they show metameric segmentation. What is metameric segmentation? Externally and internally segmented. Second feature, these are, you can guess from it, these are parasitic. These are also parasitic, and these, most of them are free living and some are parasitic. So, I am giving both the options. So, because Platyhelminthes is parasitic, look at the mouth. I have shown the structure of the mouth. So, they are parasitic, and see how the mouth is endowed, equipped with hooks, and they have suckers to hold on to the intestine. Now, this is also, roundworms also are parasitic, holding on to our intestine. So, look at the mouth, sucking mouth with teeth, so sharp teeth to hold on to the intestine. But look at the third category, annelids. I have given 3 pictures. This is the picture of earthworm. This is Nereis, and this is leech. Okay. So, earthworm is free living on the earth or land. Nereis is free living in water, and this leech is parasitic, ectoparasitic, not inside the body, it is an ectoparasite. Now, these are the 2 free living forms, that is earthworm and Nereis. So, how do they move? They should have some locomotory organs. In earthworm, they have the longitudinal muscles and the circular muscles, and so by the alternate contraction and relaxation of the muscles, they move. Okay, that's the way earthworm moves on the earth surface of the earth. Nereis, it's living in water. So they have some locomotory organs, see, like those hooks legs, parapodia. I'll zoom and show you the parapodia. So Nereis has the parapodia, it's living in the water. So for movement, to swim in the water, it uses these structures called parapodia. So this is also free living but aquatic. Earthworm is free living but living on land. Their movement is by the longitudinal and circular muscle, by the contraction. And last we are having the parasitic form, leech. Because it's parasitic, definitely the mouth should have the sucking type of mouth part. So you have the mouth which is having suckers to cling on to our skin and suck the blood. So the second feature to distinguish the three worms, I gave the habitat. Now third feature, I am going to take one feature from the fundamental features because this can be a best distinction between the three animals. These regarding the body coelom, these are acoelomate, these are pseudocoelomates, and these are the normal true coelomates. So what I have highlighted in pink is the body coelom. These are acoelomate, that is they are flat and so they do not have a body coelom. These have a false coelom, so they are called pseudocoelomates, and these have a true coelom called, and therefore they are called coelomates. So very good example to give for the different types of coelom. Take the case of the three worms. Next, I am going for level of organization. Level of organization in platyhelminth is just having the organ level of organization, whereas these two are having organ system level of organization. Clear? Now, because I dealt with the organ system, we can analyze 4 systems. Mainly, I am continuing with blue color, so then you will understand it is coming after level of organization, but the numbers changes. Digestive system, circulatory system, excretory system, reproductive system. So taking these 4 systems together, we are going to analyze. Okay. So the digestive system of platyhelminth is incomplete digestive system. What is incomplete? I have already mentioned what is incomplete. It has only one opening, the mouth, through which food enters and exits. So the mouth serves as both mouth and anus. So only one opening, whereas helminthus has complete digestive system, and this also has a complete digestive system. Okay, I have indicated an abbreviation. So digestive system in platyhelminthus, incomplete digestive, has only one opening, whereas helminthus and annelids have complete digestive system with 2 openings, mouth and the anus. Circulatory system. In platyhelminthus, circulatory system is absent, whereas here it is the open circulatory system, that is in helminthus open circulatory system, and in annelids it is a closed circulatory system. I hope you understood the difference between open and closed. Here open, the blood from the heart is pumped into open spaces, there is no blood vessels, whereas there the blood is pumped from the heart into blood vessels. So, blood is confined in blood vessels. Excretory system, here platyhelminthes, the excretory organs are the flame cells. Ash helminthes, it is called the protonephridia. And in annelids, the excretory system is, the excretory organs are the nephridia. So, clear? Excretory organs in platyhelminthes are the flame cells. Here in ash helminthes, protonephridia, and in annelids, it's nephridia. Now, reproduction. In all the case, the reproduction, fertilization is internal. Internal fertilization, and here also internal fertilization. But the development, here it is indirect development, whereas here the development is direct, and here also the development is direct. So, once again, under reproduction, where is the egg and the sperm fusing? It is inside. So, it is called internal fertilization. All three worms, fertilization is internal, but the development of the young one, in this case, this is a larval form. So, it is having indirect development. The other two cases, it shows direct development. Worms gives, these two worms give rise to worms, which are like to the adult. Okay. Then also very important feature, which I am giving it in another color, these are bisexual. That is, the same organisms bears both the sex organs. These are unisexual. That is, this male and female separate worms. And in the last case, there are mostly they are bisexual, and a few are unisexual. Clear? So, once again, these three worms can be studied in the form of a comparison. So, there should be 7 points at least to distinguish the three worms, usually asked question. So, the first, starting with the first feature, let it be the distinct feature, okay, distinctive feature. Platyhelminthes are dorsoventrally flattened, whereas ash helminthes, they have round outline when cut through the cross section, and annelids are metamerically segmented. First feature. Second feature, the habitat. These are parasitic. Platyhelminthes parasitic, ash helminthes parasitic, whereas the third category of worms are the annelids, both free living and parasitic. If they are free living, they move with the help of either, if they are like earthworm, they move by the contraction and relaxation of the longitudinal and circular muscles, but nearest, which is an aquatic form, moves with the help of parapodia, and parasitic we have leech, there is a sucking mouth parts. So, because these two, all the parasitic forms, the mouth parts are highly modified to cling on to the host. These have mouth parts with hooks and suckers. These have mouth parts which are sucking type with teeth, and here they have mouth parts which is suctorial. Next, the coelom. These are acoelomate, that means they do not have coelom. These have false coelom, so they are called pseudocoelomate, and the last category, they are coelomates. They have true coelom. Now, level of organization. Platyhelminthes shows a primitive level of organization, organ level, whereas ash helminthes and annelids shows organ system level of organization, but little more higher level. Then digestive system. Digestive system in platyhelminthes, incomplete digestive system, only has one opening, the mouth, whereas these two worms have complete digestive system having two openings, mouth and anus. Circulatory system. In platyhelminthes, circulatory system is absent, whereas in ash helminthes, the type of circulatory system is open, that is, the blood is not passing through blood vessels, whereas here there is a heart which pumps the blood through blood vessels. So, they have the closed type annelids. Next, excretory system. In platyhelminthes, they have the excretory organ called flame cells, whereas ash helminthes has the excretory organs called protonephridia, and earthworms or annelids have the excretory system or the excretory organs called nephridia. And last is the reproductive system. Reproductive system, we are including 3 points, 1, 2, 3. The 3 points is fertilization, second development, and third the sex. So, fertilization in all 3 worms are internal. So, it is easy to remember fertilization all the 3 worms internal fertilization, the egg and sperm uses inside. Then next, the development in Platyhelminths is indirect development, whereas in the other 2 worms the development is showing direct development. And lastly, Platyhelminths are bisexual forms or hermaphrodites. Both the sex organs are present in the same organism, whereas in Ashhelminths they are unisexual, and the speciality is you can distinguish the male worm from the female worm. And lastly, we have the annelids. Both forms exist, bisexual as well as unisexual forms. Clear? I hope the worms are also clear. When you learn worms, you learn it in the form of this table. So, please note down the table. Thank you.